Good evening, friends, and welcome back to another gentle journey through the whispered corridors of history. Tonight we'll drift into the fascinating and sometimes surprising world of ancient beauty rituals, where our ancestors pursued the same timeless desire for beauty and self-care that we know today, though their methods might raise an eyebrow or two in our modern world. Go ahead and dim your lights now. Let the soft glow of your screen be the only illumination as you settle deeper into your pillow. Pull that blanket up to your chin and let your breathing slow as we prepare to explore 5 strange beauty tricks from ancient times that might just shock you, though I promise to tell them in the most soothing way possible. If this calm journey through history helps you unwind and guides you toward peaceful sleep, feel free to tap that like button and subscribe to join our growing community of fellow history lovers who find comfort in the past. Only if it feels right, of course. And let me know in the comments below where you're tuning in from tonight and what time it is in your corner of the world. I love imagining all of us scattered across the globe, sharing these quiet moments together. Now, close your eyes if you'd like, and let me transport you back thousands of years to times when beauty was pursued with ingredients and methods that would seem utterly foreign to us today, yet somehow speak to that universal human desire to feel beautiful, confident, and cared for. Picture yourself walking along the banks of the ancient Nile River, somewhere around 3100 BCE, when the Great Pyramids were still just dreams in architects' minds, and the pharaohs ruled a land that seemed to stretch endlessly into golden desert sands. The air is warm and dry, carrying the faint scent of lotus blossoms from the river and the distant sound of workers singing as they tend to their daily tasks. It's in this ancient world that we discover our first shocking beauty secret, one that would make any modern cosmetics safety board absolutely faint with worry. Let me tell you about Kohl, that dramatic black eye makeup that made the ancient Egyptians look like they'd stepped straight out of a movie about gods and goddesses. You've probably seen it in paintings and movies, those striking black lines that extended from the corners of Egyptian eyes, creating an otherworldly, almost supernatural appearance. Both men and women wore it, from the mightiest pharaoh down to ordinary citizens who could afford it. But here's what might surprise you about this ancient beauty staple. It was made with lead, and lots of it. Imagine sitting in a small workshop along a busy street in ancient Memphis, a capital city that hummed with activity day and night. The soft light filtering through a window illuminates an elderly woman, her own eyes dramatically lined with the very product she's creating. Her weathered hands work methodically, grinding galena, a lead sulfide mineral, into the finest powder you can imagine. The sound is rhythmic, almost meditative, as she works her pestle in small circular motions against the stone bowl, creating a powder so fine it feels like silk between your fingers. But galena wasn't the only ingredient in this ancient eye makeup that would shock us today. Sometimes they mixed in malachite, a beautiful green copper mineral that added depth and color variation to their kohl. Other times they would add antimony, another toxic metal that gave the kohl its deep, penetrating black color. Picture the gentle grinding sounds echoing through the workshop as various apprentices prepared different batches, each one adding their own subtle variations to the recipe that had been passed down through generations. Now, before you start thinking these ancient people were simply unaware of the dangers, let me share something that might surprise you even more. Recent archaeological evidence suggests that the Egyptians may have actually known about lead's toxic properties to some degree, but they believed the benefits outweighed the risks. You see, Kohl wasn't just about looking beautiful, though it certainly achieved that goal. It served practical purposes that were vital in the harsh desert environment. Close your eyes and imagine the blazing Egyptian sun beating down on your face as you work in the fields or walk through the marketplace. The kohl around your eyes wasn't just dramatic makeup, it was like ancient sunglasses, reducing the harsh glare that could cause headaches and eye strain. The dark pigment absorbed light and reduced reflection, much like the black paint modern athletes wear under their eyes during bright outdoor games. But there's more to this story that makes it even more fascinating. The ancient Egyptians believed that kohl had magical and religious properties. They thought it could protect them from the evil eye, ward off infections, and even help them communicate with their gods. Picture a young woman preparing for a religious festival, carefully applying her kohl by the flickering light of an oil lamp. Each stroke isn't just about beauty, it's a sacred ritual, a connection to the divine, a way of preparing herself to stand in the presence of the gods. The application process itself was an art form that would put modern makeup tutorials to shame. They used small sticks made from wood, bronze, or even ivory, similar to modern eyeliner pencils but much more ornate. Some of these applicators were works of art themselves, carved with intricate designs and decorated with precious stones. Can you imagine owning a makeup tool so beautiful that it was worthy of being buried with pharaohs in their tombs? Many of these kohl containers and applicators have been found in ancient Egyptian tombs, testament to how important this beauty ritual was to their culture. The wealthy had elaborate kohl containers made from precious materials like gold, silver, and carved stone. Picture Cleopatra herself sitting at her ornate dressing table, reaching for a kohl container made from polished obsidian, its surface so smooth it reflects the oil lamps like a dark mirror. Her servants have prepared the perfect consistency of kohl, mixing it with a small amount of animal fat or plant oils to create a smooth, creamy texture that glides effortlessly around her eyes.
The storage and preservation of kohl was also an art form. They kept it in small containers designed to keep moisture out and preserve the consistency of the mixture. Some containers were so well sealed that archaeologists have found kohl that's still usable after thousands of years. though I wouldn't recommend trying it, given what we now know about lead poisoning. But perhaps the most shocking aspect of this ancient beauty practice isn't the toxic ingredients, it's how sophisticated their understanding of cosmetics actually was. They knew how to create different consistencies for different applications, how to make waterproof versions for special occasions, and how to blend colors to create unique shades. They had mastered the art of cosmetics to such a degree that some of their techniques are still used by makeup artists today, minus the lead content, of course. Picture yourself at a grand Egyptian feast, the kind that might last for days during important religious festivals. The flickering light of countless oil lamps dances across the faces of the guests, and every single person, from servants to nobility, has their eyes dramatically outlined with kohl. The effect is mesmerizing, almost hypnotic, as if you're dining with gods and goddesses rather than mere mortals. The kohl doesn't just enhance their natural beauty, it transforms them into something otherworldly, something divine. The preparation rituals surrounding kohl application were often social events in themselves. Groups of women would gather together, sharing stories and gossip while they helped each other achieve the perfect eye makeup. Picture a group of friends in an ancient Egyptian home. The afternoon sun filtering through thin linen curtains, creating a soft golden light as they take turns applying each other's kohl. The conversation flows as smoothly as the makeup, covering everything from family news to the latest gossip from the pharaoh's court. Even children wore kohl, though this practice would horrify modern parents who know about lead poisoning. But in ancient Egypt, it was considered not just normal, but necessary for protecting young eyes from the harsh sun and desert winds. Picture a mother carefully applying kohl to her young child's eyes, each stroke filled with love and the desire to protect her little one from both physical and spiritual harm. As we drift away from these ancient Egyptian workshops and that warm golden world along the Nile, let the image of those dramatically lined eyes fade gently into the background of your mind. The rhythmic sound of pestle grinding minerals becomes softer and softer, like a distant lullaby, carrying you toward the next chapter of our journey through the surprising beauty practices of the ancient world. But here's where the story gets even more intriguing. Different social classes had access to different qualities of kohl, and you could actually tell someone's status by the quality of their eye makeup. The wealthy could afford the purest galena, ground to an almost supernatural fineness and mixed with expensive oils. The middle class might use a slightly coarser version, while the poor made do with cheaper alternatives that sometimes included soot from oil lamps mixed with animal fat. The process of making kohl was almost ceremonial in itself. Picture walking into that ancient workshop again, but this time notice the reverence with which the artisans approach their work. They're not just making cosmetics, they're creating something that will adorn the eyes that will look upon the gods, something that will protect the wearer from both physical and spiritual harm. The grinding of the minerals becomes a meditation, the mixing of ingredients a prayer. Sometimes they would add other ingredients that seem equally shocking to our modern sensibilities. Crushed pearls for those who could afford such luxury, adding a subtle shimmer to the finished product. Burnt almonds for a softer, more natural look. Even ground-up precious stones like lapis lazuli for the wealthiest clients, creating kohl that literally sparkled with the deep blue of the night sky.
Now let your mind wander from the sun-baked shores of ancient Egypt to the bustling streets of Rome at the height of its empire, around 100 CE, when the city was home to over 1 million people and the greatest civilization the world had ever known. The cobblestone streets echo with the sounds of merchants hawking their wares, horses' hooves clattering against stone, and the constant murmur of conversation in a dozen different languages. It's here, in this cosmopolitan wonder of the ancient world, that we discover our second shocking beauty secret, one that involves something you probably encounter every day, but would never, ever consider using as a beauty product. Close your eyes and imagine walking through the residential district of ancient Rome on a crisp morning, the air filled with the aroma of fresh bread from nearby bakeries and the distant sound of fountains trickling in private courtyards. You pass elegant homes with their distinctive red tile roofs and painted walls, and if you could peer into the private bathing areas of these wealthy Roman homes, you'd witness something that would make modern beauty enthusiasts absolutely recoil in horror. Let me tell you about one of Rome's most popular beauty treatments, urine therapy. Yes, you heard that correctly. The Romans, those sophisticated people who gave us aqueducts, concrete, and legal systems that still influence our world today, believed that urine was the ultimate beauty elixir, capable of whitening teeth, softening skin, and even preventing aging. But before you judge them too harshly, let me paint a picture of why this seemed not only reasonable, but positively luxurious to the people of ancient Rome. Picture a wealthy Roman matron named Livia, reclining in her private bath chamber, the walls decorated with intricate mosaics depicting scenes from mythology. Soft morning light filters through a high window, casting dancing patterns on the water's surface. The room is filled with the gentle sound of water trickling from bronze spouts, and the air is perfumed with rose petals floating on the bath surface. Livia isn't just bathing in water, though. She's immersed in what Romans considered the most precious beauty treatment available, imported urine from young Portuguese women. You see, the Romans didn't just use any urine for their beauty treatments. They were incredibly selective and sophisticated about their sources. Portuguese urine was considered the premium choice, supposedly because the Portuguese had particularly pure diets and lifestyles. Imagine the elaborate trade networks that developed around this bizarre beauty product. Ships would cross the Mediterranean carrying amphorae filled with carefully preserved urine, treated like precious wine or oil, with merchants arguing over the quality and provenance of their unusual cargo. The Romans had developed an entire science around urine-based beauty treatments, complete with detailed instructions for different applications. For teeth whitening, they would use fresh urine as a mouthwash, swishing it around their mouths like we might use Listerine today. Picture a Roman gentleman preparing for an important social gathering, standing in his private chamber while a slave holds up a polished bronze mirror. He rinses his mouth with urine, believing it will give him the brightest, most attractive smile possible for the evening's festivities. But dental hygiene was just the beginning of urine's beauty applications in ancient Rome. They believed it could cure acne, reduce wrinkles, and even restore youthful vigor to aging skin. Wealthy Roman women would have entire bathing rituals centered around urine treatments, soaking in specially prepared baths that might contain urine mixed with milk, honey, and various herbs. The process was treated with the same reverence and attention to detail that modern spa treatments receive. Now, here's what makes this even more fascinating from a historical perspective. The Romans weren't completely wrong about urine having some beneficial properties. Modern science has discovered that urine contains urea, a compound that's still used in many skincare products today for its moisturizing and exfoliating properties. It also contains ammonia, which does have mild antiseptic qualities. So while their methods were certainly shocking by today's standards, there was actually some scientific basis for their beliefs. Picture walking through the public baths of ancient Rome, those magnificent complexes that served as social centers for the entire community. The caldarium, or hot room, is filled with steam and the quiet murmur of conversation as people relax in the heated pools. But in the private chambers reserved for the wealthy, you might witness scenes that would seem like something from a bizarre dream. Attendants carefully mixing urine-based treatments, wealthy patrons discussing the merits of different urine sources, like modern wine connoisseurs debating vintages. The Romans had elaborate theories about which types of urine were best for different beauty purposes. Young virgin urine was considered ideal for maintaining youthful skin, while pregnant women's urine was thought to be particularly effective for treating blemishes. They even believed that the urine of certain animals had beauty benefits, with deer urine being prized for its supposed ability to promote hair growth. The preparation and storage of urine for beauty purposes was treated as seriously as any other luxury cosmetic. Wealthy Romans had servants whose job it was to collect, prepare, and preserve urine treatments. Picture a dedicated beauty servant in a wealthy household, carefully testing the quality of urine deliveries, mixing custom treatments for their mistress, and maintaining detailed records of which formulations produced the best results.
But perhaps the most shocking aspect of this practice was how openly it was discussed and celebrated in Roman society. This wasn't some secret folk remedy practiced in back alleys. It was mainstream, sophisticated skincare endorsed by the elite. Roman poets wrote verses praising the beauty-enhancing properties of urine, and physicians included urine treatments in their medical texts alongside other accepted remedies. The social rituals surrounding urine-based beauty treatments were elaborate affairs. Picture Livia again, but this time imagine the entire process from beginning to end. Her day begins with servants preparing her urine bath, carefully heating the mixture to the perfect temperature, and adding complementary ingredients like rose petals and aromatic oils. She spends the morning soaking, having her skin gently massaged with urine treatments, while slaves fan her with peacock feathers, and musicians play soft melodies on lyres in the background. The Romans even developed specialized tools and containers for urine-based beauty treatments. Delicate glass vessels for storage, bronze applicators for facial treatments, and elaborate mixing bowls for preparing custom formulations. Some of these beautiful containers have been found in archaeological excavations. Their original purpose
making them some of the most unusual artifacts in museum collections. The trade in premium urine became so lucrative that entire businesses developed around it. Merchants would establish networks of suppliers in different regions, each specializing in particular types of urine for specific beauty applications. Picture Roman marketplaces where vendors sold urine alongside perfumes, cosmetics, and other luxury goods, with customers carefully examining samples and negotiating prices for their preferred formulations. But the Romans didn't limit themselves to human urine. They also prized the urine of certain animals for specific beauty purposes. Horses' urine was thought to strengthen hair, while goats' urine was believed to cure skin conditions. The procurement and preparation of animal urine for cosmetic purposes became yet another specialized industry, with handlers who knew exactly how to collect and preserve these unusual beauty ingredients. The bathing rituals themselves were elaborate ceremonies that could last for hours. Picture Livia again, but this time imagine the entire process from beginning to end. Her day begins with servants preparing her urine bath, carefully heating the mixture to the perfect temperature, and adding complementary ingredients like rose petals and aromatic oils. She spends the morning soaking, having her skin gently massaged with urine treatments, while slaves fan her with peacock feathers and musicians play soft melodies on lyres in the background. The key to this method was the belief that the natural enzymes and compounds in urine had purifying and smoothing properties. The Romans believed that regular baths in this dubious substance could cleanse the skin, fade wrinkles, and improve overall complexion. It was a primal approach to skin care based on ancient observations and a deep connection to the natural world. The method of collecting and preparing this beauty treatment was in itself quite elaborate. Romans believed that the best urine for beauty purposes came from young, healthy individuals on a specific diet. This led to a specialized trade in urine, with individuals specializing in sourcing the premium stuff. It was further mixed with other ingredients such as mineral powders, oils, and aromatics to create custom blends tailored to each woman's specific needs and preferences.
Let your mind drift now from those Roman bathhouses to the sun-drenched hills of ancient Greece around 500 BCE, when philosophers debated under olive trees and the very concept of democracy was taking its first tentative steps in the world. Picture yourself walking along a coastal path on one of the Greek islands, the Mediterranean Sea stretching endlessly toward the horizon, its surface sparkling like scattered diamonds under the warm afternoon sun. The air carries the mingled scents of wild herbs growing on the hillsides, the salt tang of the sea, and something else, something sweet and golden that draws you toward a small stone building nestled among ancient olive groves. Here, in this peaceful corner of the ancient world, we discover our third shocking beauty secret, though this one might actually make your mouth water rather than make you recoil in horror. The ancient Greeks had discovered something that modern science has only recently begun to fully appreciate: the incredible beauty and healing properties of honey. And they used it in ways that would make today's most expensive spa treatments seem positively primitive by comparison. Close your eyes and imagine entering that small stone building, your bare feet cool against the smooth marble floors. This is the workshop of Metrodora, one of ancient Greece's most renowned beauty practitioners, though history has largely forgotten her name. The interior is filled with the most intoxicating aroma you can imagine. Pure golden honey mixed with rose petals, crushed almonds, and exotic spices imported from lands far beyond the Greek world. Shafts of sunlight stream through high windows, illuminating hundreds of small clay pots arranged on wooden shelves, each one containing a different honey-based beauty treatment. But this isn't just any honey we're talking about. The Greeks had developed an incredibly sophisticated understanding of different types of honey and their specific properties for beauty treatments. There was thyme honey from the hills of Attica, prized for its antibacterial properties and used to treat acne and skin infections. Wild herb honey from the mountains of Crete, believed to have special powers for preserving youthful skin. And most precious of all, the legendary honey from Mount Hymettus, so pure and aromatic that it was reserved for the most elite beauty treatments and religious ceremonies. Picture Metrodora preparing a treatment for one of her wealthy clients, perhaps the wife of a prominent Athenian politician or a priestess from one of the city's great temples. She begins with honey that's been stored in amphoras for exactly 1 year, believing that this aging process concentrates its beauty-enhancing properties. The honey flows like liquid gold as she pours it into a marble mixing bowl, its consistency perfect after months of careful storage in the cool darkness of her workshop's underground chambers. But the Greeks didn't just use honey by itself. They had developed incredibly complex formulations that combined honey with dozens of other natural ingredients, creating beauty treatments that were like edible works of art. Picture Metrodora adding crushed rose petals that have been dried in the Greek sun for exactly 40 days, their color still vibrant pink, and their fragrance so intense that it seems to transport you to gardens of the gods. Then comes finely ground almonds, creating a texture that's both nourishing and gently exfoliating, followed by a few drops of olive oil from trees that have been growing on Greek hillsides for centuries. The application of these honey-based treatments was a ritual that could take hours, and it was considered one of the most luxurious experiences available in the ancient world. Picture yourself as that wealthy Greek woman reclining on a marble bench covered with soft linen cloths, while Metrodora and her assistants begin what they call the golden treatment. First, your skin is cleansed with warm water, infused with herbs and flower petals, preparing it to receive the honey mixture. Then begins the most extraordinary part of the treatment. The honey mixture is applied not just to your face, but to your entire body, starting from your feet and working upward in slow, deliberate motions. The sensation is unlike anything you've ever experienced. The honey is warm from sitting in the Greek sun, and as it touches your skin, you can feel it beginning to work its magic. The Greeks believed that honey could draw impurities out of the skin while simultaneously nourishing it, and the tingling sensation you feel seems to confirm their beliefs. But here's where the Greek approach to honey treatments gets truly fascinating, and would shock even modern spa enthusiasts. They would often leave these honey treatments on for hours, sometimes even overnight. Picture yourself covered from head to toe in this golden aromatic mixture, lying in a quiet chamber while the honey slowly works its way into every pore. The Greeks believed that honey could perform its deepest healing and beautifying work. And during these extended treatments, clients would often be entertained by musicians playing soft melodies on lyres, or by poets reciting verses about beauty and love. Imagine lying there in your golden cocoon of honey, listening to the gentle plucking of lyre strings and verses about Aphrodite, the goddess of beauty, while the Mediterranean breeze whispers through open windows. The entire experience was designed to be not just a beauty treatment, but a complete sensory journey that nourished both body and soul. The Greeks had also discovered that different honeys worked better for different skin types and beauty goals. For women with dry skin, they preferred honey mixed with olive oil and crushed flowers. For those with oily complexions, they would combine honey with ground oats and herbs known for their astringent properties. For aging skin, they created elaborate formulations that included honey aged for multiple years, combined with crushed pearls and gold dust for the wealthiest clients.
The removal process was as carefully orchestrated as the application. Picture servants arriving with large jugs of warm water infused with rose petals and mint, gently washing away the honey treatment with soft sea sponges. As the golden mixture is slowly removed, your skin emerges feeling impossibly soft and smooth, with a glow that seems to come from within. The Greeks called this the honey glow, and they believed it was a sign that the treatment had successfully awakened the natural beauty that lay dormant in every person. But perhaps the most shocking aspect of Greek honey treatments wasn't what they put on their skin, but what they consumed during the process. The Greeks believed that true beauty came from within, so honey treatments always included internal consumption of special honey preparations. Picture sipping slowly from a delicate cup containing honey mixed with wine, rosewater, and exotic spices, believing that this internal treatment would enhance the external effects and create beauty that radiated from your very essence. The preparation of these honey treatments was considered a sacred art passed down through generations of beauty practitioners. Mitrodora learned her craft from her grandmother, who learned from her grandmother before her, in an unbroken chain of knowledge stretching back to the earliest days of Greek civilization. Each practitioner would add her own innovations and refinements, but the basic principles remained the same. Honey was nature's perfect beauty treatment, capable of healing, nourishing, and transforming skin in ways that seemed almost magical. The Greeks had even developed seasonal variations of their honey treatments, believing that different times of year required different approaches to beauty care. Spring treatments focused on renewal and awakening, using honey mixed with the first flowers of the season. Summer treatments emphasized protection and cooling, combining honey with cucumber and mint. Autumn treatments were designed to prepare skin for the coming winter, using honey mixed with nuts and warming spices. Winter treatments focused on nourishment and protection, creating rich, intensive formulations that could withstand the harsh Mediterranean winter winds. The social aspects of honey treatments were just as important as their beauty benefits. Wealthy Greek women would often gather together for group honey treatment sessions, turning beauty care into a social event that could last for an entire day. Picture a beautiful courtyard in an elegant Greek villa, filled with women reclining on marble benches, all covered in different honey treatments, while they chat about politics, philosophy, and the latest gossip from the agora. These gatherings were opportunities to share beauty secrets, compare different honey formulations, and strengthen the social bonds that were so important in Greek society. The Greeks also believed that honey treatments had spiritual and emotional benefits beyond their physical effects. They thought that the natural sweetness of honey could improve a person's disposition, making them more attractive, not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually as well. This holistic approach to beauty was revolutionary for its time and would influence beauty practices for centuries to come. The trade in premium honey for beauty purposes became a significant part of the Greek economy. Merchants would travel throughout the Mediterranean world, seeking out the finest honeys from different regions and competing to supply the most discerning beauty practitioners. The island of Crete became particularly famous for its honey beauty, with entire villages dedicated to producing honey specifically for cosmetic purposes rather than food. The tools and implements used for honey treatments were works of art in themselves. Delicate bronze spatulas for mixing, marble bowls carved with scenes from Greek mythology, and silk brushes for application were all part of the elaborate ritual. Many of these beautiful implements have been found in archaeological excavations, testament to the importance that Greeks placed on their honey-based beauty treatments. As we slowly leave this aromatic world of golden honey and marble chambers, let the sweet scent of rose petals and thyme honey fade gently into the background. The sound of lyres playing soft melodies becomes a distant whisper, and the warm Greek sun on honey-covered skin becomes just a peaceful memory as we prepare to journey to our next destination in the fascinating world of ancient beauty practices.
Now let your mind travel forward through the time-soaked hills of ancient Greece as we journey into the misty, mysterious world of medieval Europe, somewhere around 1200 CE. Picture yourself walking through the narrow cobblestone streets of a thriving medieval city, perhaps Paris or London, where Gothic cathedrals reach toward the heavens like stone prayers, and the air is filled with the sounds of merchants, craftsmen, and the occasional clatter of horses' hooves on wet stone. The smell of wood smoke from countless hearths mingles with more exotic aromas, spices and perfumes from distant lands that arrive via trade routes stretching across continents. It's in this world of knights and nobles, of courtly love and chivalric romance, that we discover our fourth shocking beauty secret, one that would absolutely horrify modern medical practitioners and probably make you feel a bit queasy. But I promise to tell it in the most soothing way possible, like a dark fairy tale whispered by firelight on on a winter evening. Close your eyes and imagine entering the private chambers of Lady Isabel, a noblewoman of considerable wealth and status in medieval France. Her room is illuminated by the warm, flickering light of dozens of candles, their wax scenting the air with hints of beeswax and lavender. Tapestries depicting scenes of courtly love hang on the stone walls, and a fire crackles merrily in an ornate fireplace, casting dancing shadows across the room. But what you're about to witness in this seemingly romantic setting would make modern beauty enthusiasts absolutely faint with shock. Lady Isabel is preparing for what medieval people considered the ultimate beauty treatment: bloodletting. Yes, you heard that correctly. Medieval Europeans, from the highest nobility to wealthy merchants, believed that removing blood from their bodies was not only medically beneficial, but also the key to maintaining youthful, beautiful skin. They thought that by draining what they called bad blood from their system, they could achieve a perfect, pale complexion that was the height of fashion in medieval society. Picture the scene as Lady Isabel's personal physician, a learned man who has studied at the great medical schools of Salerno and Paris, prepares his instruments. His bag contains an array of sharp knives called lancets, each one carefully maintained and polished to a mirror shine. There are also glass cups for collecting blood, clean linen cloths, and various herbal preparations designed to prevent infection and promote healing after the procedure. But the physician isn't the only practitioner of this beauty treatment. In medieval Europe, barber surgeons also performed bloodletting, and their shops were as common as beauty salons are today. Picture walking through a medieval marketplace and seeing the distinctive red and white striped poles that marked barber surgeon shops, the very same design that inspired modern barbershop poles. Inside these establishments, you might witness a dozen customers at once, all having blood drawn for various purposes, including the pursuit of beauty and youth. The medieval understanding of bloodletting was based on the ancient Greek theory of the four humors: blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile. Medieval physicians believed that an imbalance in these humors caused not only illness, but also skin problems, premature aging, and loss of beauty. By removing excess blood, they thought they could restore the perfect balance that would result in flawless skin, bright eyes, and a youthful appearance that would last well into old age. The timing of bloodletting treatments was considered crucial, with medieval beauty practitioners consulting elaborate astrological charts to determine the most auspicious moments for the procedure. Picture Lady Isabel's physician studying a beautiful illuminated manuscript filled with zodiacal symbols and lunar calculations, determining that the waning moon in Scorpio provides the perfect celestial conditions for her beauty bloodletting session. The amount of blood removed varied depending on the individual's constitution, age, and beauty goals. For a young woman seeking to maintain her complexion, perhaps only a small amount would be drawn, just enough to restore what they believed was the proper balance of humors. But for older women hoping to recapture their youth, or those with particular skin problems, much larger quantities might be removed, sometimes to the point where the patient would feel faint and weak for days afterward. The procedure itself was surprisingly sophisticated for its time. Picture Lady Isabel reclining on a beautifully carved wooden chair, her arm extended over a small table covered with the finest linen.
The physician makes a small, precise incision in her arm with his razor-sharp lancet, and blood begins to flow into a waiting glass cup. The sound is soft but distinct, like gentle rain on a window pane, and the color is deep red, almost burgundy in the candlelight. But here's where the medieval approach to bloodletting becomes even more shocking to modern sensibilities. They didn't just remove blood, they studied it carefully, believing that its color, consistency, and flow could reveal important information about a person's health and beauty potential. Dark, thick blood was considered a sign of corruption that needed to be removed, while bright red blood flowing freely was seen as evidence of perfect health and natural beauty.
Sometimes, instead of using lancets, medieval beauty practitioners would use leeches, those slimy, blood-sucking creatures that seem more like something from a horror movie than a beauty treatment. Picture Lady Isabel with several leeches attached to her temples and behind her ears, the creatures slowly drawing blood while she reclines peacefully, perhaps reading a book of courtly poetry or listening to a musician play gentle melodies on a lute. The use of leeches was actually considered more refined and genteel than lancet bloodletting, especially for delicate areas like the face and neck. Medieval physicians believed that leeches could remove blood more gradually and precisely than knives, making them ideal for cosmetic applications. The creatures were kept in special containers and fed regularly to ensure they were healthy and ready for use in beauty treatments. The recovery period after bloodletting was treated as a crucial part of the beauty regimen. Picture Lady Isabel spending the next several days in her chambers, tended by servants who bring her special foods designed to restore her strength while maintaining the beauty benefits of the treatment. She drinks wine mixed with herbs, eats delicate broths made from young chickens, and rests in bed surrounded by luxurious furs and silks, all while her skin supposedly becomes more radiant as her humors rebalance. Medieval women would often schedule their bloodletting treatments to coincide with important social events, believing that the procedure would give them a special glow for court appearances, weddings, or religious festivals. Picture the weeks leading up to a great tournament or royal celebration, with noble ladies throughout the kingdom scheduling their beauty bloodletting sessions, all hoping to outshine their rivals with complexions made perfect through the strategic removal of blood. The social aspects of bloodletting were just as important as the supposed beauty benefits. Wealthy women would often gather together for group bloodletting sessions, turning the medical procedure into a social event, complete with entertainment, fine food, and gossip. Picture a great hall in a medieval castle, filled with elegantly dressed ladies reclining in comfortable chairs, while physicians move between them, performing bloodletting procedures while musicians play and servants offer wine and delicate pastries. The tools and implements used for beauty bloodletting were often works of art themselves, crafted from precious metals and decorated with intricate engravings. Wealthy patrons would commission custom lancets made from the finest steel and decorated with gold and silver, treating their bloodletting instruments like precious jewelry. Some of these beautiful and disturbing tools have survived to this day, housed in medical museums where they serve as reminders of how different medieval concepts of beauty really were. The physicians who specialized in cosmetic bloodletting were highly respected members of medieval society, often earning more than ordinary doctors because of the exclusive nature of their clientele. They would travel from castle to castle, carrying their instruments in beautiful leather cases and offering their services to the wealthy and powerful. Picture one of these traveling beauty physicians arriving at a medieval court, his reputation preceding him as nobles compete for appointments and discuss the miraculous results they've heard about from friends and relatives. But bloodletting wasn't limited to the nobility. Wealthy merchants, successful craftsmen, and other members of the growing middle class also sought out these treatments, though they might visit barber surgeons rather than university-trained physicians. The democratization of bloodletting as a beauty treatment reflected the increasing prosperity of medieval society and the growing importance placed on personal appearance across all social classes. The decline of bloodletting as a beauty treatment came gradually as medical knowledge advanced and people began to understand that removing blood actually weakened the body rather than strengthening it. But the practice persisted in some form for centuries, with various modifications and refinements that attempted to maintain the supposed beauty benefits while reducing the obvious health risks. Regional variations in bloodletting techniques developed throughout medieval Europe, with different countries and cultures adding their own refinements to the basic procedure. In Italy, physicians might combine bloodletting with aromatic herbs and oils, creating a more sensory experience. In Germanic regions, the timing of treatments was often coordinated with seasonal changes, believing that different times of year required different approaches to blood removal for optimal beauty results. As we slowly leave Lady Isabel's candlelit chambers and the mysterious world of medieval beauty practices, let the flickering shadows on stone walls fade into gentle darkness. The sound of lutes playing courtly melodies becomes a distant whisper, and the scent of beeswax candles and lavender lingers just at the edge of memory as we prepare for our next journey into the fascinating realm of ancient beauty secrets.
Let your consciousness drift now across vast continents and through the mists of time, traveling from the stone castles of medieval Europe to the elegant pavilions and moonlit gardens of ancient China during the Song dynasty around 1000 CE. Picture yourself walking through the forbidden city on a peaceful evening when the last rays of sunlight paint the imperial buildings in shades of gold and crimson, and the air is perfumed with jasmine blossoms and the distant sound of Guqin music floating across tranquil courtyards filled with carefully arranged rocks and miniature trees. It's in this world of exquisite refinement and artistic achievement that we encounter our fifth and perhaps most shocking beauty secret, one that involved a practice so extreme and transformative that it literally reshaped the female body for over 1,000 years. This is a story that unfolds in whispered conversations between mothers and daughters, in the private chambers of wealthy households, and in the delicate interplay between beauty, status, and suffering that defined the lives of Chinese women for countless generations. Close your eyes and imagine yourself in the elegant home of the Chen family, wealthy silk merchants in the bustling city of Kaifeng. The house is built around a series of peaceful courtyards, each one more beautiful than the last, with ornate wooden screens carved with scenes of birds and flowers and pools of water that reflect the moon like fragments of fallen sky. It's in this world of exquisite refinement and artistic achievement that we witness the beginning of what the Chinese called golden lotus feet, though the Western world would know it by the more direct term, foot binding. Picture young Mei Lin, barely 4 years old, sitting on her grandmother's lap in a room filled with the soft light of paper lanterns. Her grandmother, whose own feet were bound decades ago and now measure barely 3 inches long, holds the child gently while explaining what is about to happen. The old woman's voice is soft and melodious, like water flowing over smooth stones, as she tells Mei Lin about the transformation that will make her feet as beautiful and delicate as lotus blossoms floating on a peaceful pond. The process of foot binding was considered the ultimate expression of feminine beauty in ancient China, but it was also one of the most physically extreme beauty practices ever developed by human civilization. The goal was to create feet so small and perfectly shaped that they resembled the closed buds of lotus flowers, with the added benefit of producing a distinctive swaying walk that was considered the height of feminine grace and allure. The binding process itself began when girls were very young, usually between the ages of 4 and 6, when their bones were still soft enough to be molded into the desired shape. Picture the careful preparation that preceded Mei Lin's first binding session. Her grandmother has soaked her feet in warm water infused with herbs and animal blood, believing this would soften the bones and make the process less painful. Special silk bindings have been prepared, dyed in auspicious colors and blessed by Taoist priests for good fortune. The actual binding technique was a closely guarded family secret, passed down from mother to daughter through generations of women who understood that their social status and marriage prospects depended entirely on the perfection of their bound feet. Picture Mei Lin's grandmother beginning the process with infinite care and surprising gentleness, first folding the child's toes under the sole of her foot, then wrapping the silk bindings in a specific pattern that would gradually force the foot into the desired shape over months and years of constant pressure. But the binding was just the beginning of this elaborate beauty transformation. The feet had to be rewrapped every few days with fresh bindings, each time pulled tighter to continue the reshaping process. Picture the ritual that developed around these rewrapping sessions, with generations of women gathering in the family's private chambers, sharing stories and songs while they worked on maintaining their bound feet, or helping younger family members through the ongoing process. The pain involved in foot binding was legendary, with many women describing it as the most intense physical suffering they ever experienced. But Chinese culture had developed an entire philosophy around this pain, viewing it as a necessary sacrifice for achieving the ultimate in feminine beauty and social status. Picture Mei Lin, now several months into her binding process, learning to walk with her transformed feet while her grandmother coaches her in the distinctive swaying gait that bound feet produced,
a walk so graceful and hypnotic that Chinese poets compared it to willows swaying in a gentle breeze. The shoes created for bound feet were works of art that rivaled the finest jewelry in their intricacy and beauty. Picture tiny silk slippers, barely larger than a child's hand, embroidered with elaborate designs featuring dragons, phoenixes, and flowering vines worked in gold and silver thread. These shoes were so small and delicate that they seemed more like precious ornaments than functional footwear, and wealthy families would commission dozens of pairs in different colors and designs to match various outfits and occasions. The social implications of bound feet extended far beyond personal beauty preferences. In ancient China, bound feet were a clear marker of social class and economic status, since only wealthy families could afford to have their daughters' feet bound, and then support women who couldn't perform manual labor due to their disability. Picture the marriage negotiations that revolved around the size and perfection of a potential bride's feet, with professional matchmakers carefully examining and measuring bound feet to determine a woman's suitability for marriage into elite families. The care and maintenance of bound feet became a daily ritual that consumed hours of every woman's day. Picture Mei Lin, now a young woman with perfectly bound feet, measuring exactly 3 inches long, performing her daily foot care routine. She unwraps the silk bindings, carefully washes her feet with perfumed water, massages them with oils and herbal preparations, and rewraps them with fresh bindings, all while maintaining the specific pressure and positioning required to preserve the lotus shape that took years to achieve.
The erotic aspects of bound feet were central to their role in Chinese culture, with small feet being considered the most intimate and sensual part of a woman's body. Chinese literature is filled with poetic descriptions of lotus feet, comparing them to everything from white jade to flower petals to precious gems. Picture elegant gatherings in wealthy households, where women would compete to display the smallest and most perfectly shaped feet, with men writing poetry celebrating the beauty of these transformed body parts. But bound feet also created a hidden world of female solidarity and mutual support. Women with bound feet developed special techniques for helping each other walk, climb stairs, and navigate the physical challenges created by their disability. Picture groups of women moving through the courtyards of family compounds, supporting each other with delicate touches and subtle assistance, creating a graceful choreography that masked the practical difficulties of mobility with severely altered feet. The process of achieving perfect lotus feet could take many years, with the most desirable size being around 3 inches long and shaped like a crescent moon. Picture the pride and satisfaction that families felt when their daughters achieved these ideal proportions, celebrating with special ceremonies and commissioning elaborate new shoes to display the perfection of the bound feet. These celebrations were private affairs conducted within the women's quarters, but they were no less important for their secrecy. The regional variations in foot-binding techniques created subtle differences in the final results, with different provinces and cities developing their own aesthetic preferences and binding methods. In some areas, the emphasis was on creating the smallest possible feet, while in others the focus was on achieving perfect symmetry and graceful curves. Picture the friendly competition between women from different regions, each claiming that their local binding techniques produced the most beautiful results. The decline of foot binding came gradually, beginning in the late 19th century as China began to modernize and Western influences challenged traditional practices. But for many women, especially in rural areas, foot binding continued well into the 20th century, creating a generation of elderly women whose lotus feet served as living reminders of this extraordinary beauty practice. The tools and accessories associated with foot binding were often family treasures passed down through generations. Special binding cloths made from the finest silk, tiny scissors for trimming nails and dead skin, delicate oils and perfumes for foot care, and dozens of pairs of miniature shoes, each one a masterpiece of embroidery and craftsmanship. Picture the special chests and cabinets used to store these precious items, often decorated with mother-of-pearl inlays and carved with symbols of feminine virtue and beauty. The psychological aspects of foot binding were as complex as the physical transformation. Women with bound feet often described a sense of pride and accomplishment in achieving this difficult beauty ideal, even as they acknowledged the pain and limitation it caused. Picture elderly Chinese women in the 20th century showing their bound feet to fascinated Western visitors, their voices filled with both pride in their achievement and nostalgia for a world where such sacrifices were considered the natural price of feminine beauty. As we slowly leave the moonlit courtyards and silk-draped chambers of ancient China, let the sound of Guqin music fade into gentle silence. The perfume of jasmine blossoms becomes just a memory, and the rustling of silk bindings dissolves into the whisper of wind through bamboo groves as we prepare for our final journey through the beautiful and shocking world of ancient beauty practices.
For our final journey through the surprising beauty secrets of ancient times, let your mind travel to the lush highlands of Mexico around 1450 CE, when the Aztec Empire was at the height of its power and the great city of Tenochtitlan rivaled any metropolis in the world. Picture yourself walking through floating gardens called chinampas, where flowers bloom in impossible profusion, and the air is thick with the scent of cacao blossoms and vanilla orchids, while the distant sound of temple drums echoes across the valley like a heartbeat from the gods themselves. It's in this world of feathered serpents and pyramid temples, of warrior priests and sacred rituals, that we discover our final shocking beauty secret, one that involves a substance so precious to the Aztecs that they used it as currency,
offered it to their gods and believed it held the power to transform ordinary women into goddesses of beauty and fertility. This is the story of cacao, not as the sweet treat we know today, but as the foundation of the most sacred and sensual beauty rituals ever developed in the ancient Americas. Close your eyes and imagine yourself in the palace of Moctezuma II, the great Aztec emperor, specifically in the women's quarters where his wives and daughters prepare for the most important ceremonies of the Aztec calendar. The rooms are decorated with murals depicting the goddess Xochiquetzal, patron of love and beauty. Her image surrounded by cacao pods and flowers that seem to dance in the flickering light of copal incense burning in jade braziers. The air is filled with the most intoxicating aroma you can imagine: raw cacao mixed with vanilla, chili peppers, and exotic flowers that grow only in the cloud forests of the Mexican highlands. The preparation of cacao for beauty treatments was considered so sacred that only the most skilled temple priestesses were allowed to perform the initial processing. Picture these women, their faces painted with intricate designs in red and black, grinding cacao beans on special stone metates that have been blessed by priests and dedicated specifically to beauty rituals. The grinding process itself was meditative, almost hypnotic, as the priestesses worked in rhythm with chanted prayers to Xochiquetzal, asking the goddess to infuse their preparations with divine beauty and power. But the cacao used for these beauty treatments wasn't the sweet chocolate we know today. This was pure, unsweetened cacao, often mixed with chili peppers, vanilla, and sometimes even ground precious stones like jade and obsidian for the most elite treatments. Picture the Princess Itzel, daughter of a high-ranking Aztec noble, as she prepares for her wedding ceremony, the most important day of her life, when she must appear as beautiful as a goddess to ensure the favor of the gods and the success of her marriage. The cacao beauty treatment begins at dawn, as the first rays of sunlight touch the pyramid temples, and the city begins to stir with the sounds of merchants and craftsmen preparing for another day. Itzel is led to a special chamber that has been prepared specifically for her transformation, its walls covered with murals depicting the sacred cacao tree and the goddesses who protected it. Steam rises from large clay vessels filled with hot water infused with cacao and sacred herbs, creating an atmosphere that feels more like entering a temple than beginning a beauty treatment. The first step in the cacao beauty ritual involves complete immersion in a bath of liquid cacao, warm and rich, that has been prepared according to recipes passed down through generations of temple priestesses. Picture Itzel slowly lowering herself into this extraordinary bath, the liquid cacao flowing over her skin like liquid silk, warm and nourishing, carrying with it the sacred essence of the gods. The Aztecs believed that cacao contained the very life force of the earth, and by bathing in it, a woman could absorb this divine energy and transform her appearance to match her inner goddess nature. But the cacao bath is just the beginning of this elaborate beauty transformation. While Itzel soaks in the sacred liquid, attendants prepare the next phase of her treatment, a full-body massage using cacao paste mixed with vanilla, honey, and ground flowers. Picture these skilled women, their hands moving in precise patterns that have been perfected over centuries, working the cacao mixture into every inch of Itzel's skin while chanting prayers in Nahuatl, the musical language of the Aztecs. The sensory experience of a cacao beauty treatment was unlike anything else in the ancient world. The rich, complex aroma of cacao mixed with vanilla and spices created an atmosphere of luxury and sensuality that the Aztecs believed could attract love and enhance fertility. The warmth of the cacao paste against the skin, the smooth texture as it was massaged into every pore, and the knowledge that this precious substance was usually reserved for offerings to the gods, combined to create an experience that was simultaneously physical and spiritual. The Aztecs had developed different cacao formulations for different beauty purposes and different times of year. For the dry season, they would mix cacao with oil from the chia plant and ground flower petals to create extra moisturizing treatments. For the rainy season, they would add clay from sacred cenotes and ground obsidian to create formulations that they believed could protect skin from negative spiritual influences, as well as physical damage from humidity and insects. Picture the specialized tools used for cacao beauty treatments, all of them works of art that reflected the sacred nature of the ritual. Obsidian knives for harvesting cacao pods, jade spoons for mixing treatments, and brushes made from the feathers of tropical birds for applying the finished preparations. These tools were often buried with their owners, testament to how important cacao beauty rituals were in Aztec culture, and how closely they were associated with personal identity and social status.
The application of cacao treatments often took an entire day, with different formulations applied in specific sequences designed to maximize their beauty and spiritual benefits. Picture Itzel progressing through her transformation, each phase bringing her closer to the goddess-like beauty required for her wedding ceremony. First, the cacao bath, then the full body massage, followed by specialized treatments for her face, hair, and hands, each one using different cacao preparations designed for specific beauty purposes. The facial treatments were particularly elaborate, with cacao paste mixed with ground jade, vanilla, and sometimes even powdered pearls for the wealthiest clients. Picture Itzel lying still while attendants carefully apply this precious mixture to her face, working it into her skin with gentle circular motions while maintaining the sacred silence required during this phase of the ritual. The Aztecs believed that cacao could not only beautify the skin, but also enhance intelligence and spiritual awareness, making it the perfect preparation for important life ceremonies. But perhaps the most shocking aspect of Aztec cacao beauty treatments was their integration with religious and sexual practices. The Aztecs believed that beauty and fertility were gifts from the gods that needed to be honored through ritual and ceremony. Picture the elaborate preparations that surrounded important cacao beauty treatments, with priests offering prayers, musicians playing sacred songs, and dancers performing rituals designed to honor the goddess Xochiquetzal and ensure the success of the beauty transformation. The hair treatments using cacao were particularly complex and time-consuming. Picture attendants working cacao paste mixed with tree resins and flower essences through Itzel's long black hair, creating an aromatic crown
that would perfume her presence for days after the ceremony. The Aztecs believed that hair was particularly receptive to spiritual influences, and treating it with sacred cacao could enhance a woman's ability to attract love and maintain beauty throughout her life. The finishing touches of the cacao beauty ritual involved the application of body paint made from cacao mixed with natural pigments and ground precious stones. Picture Itzel's body being decorated with intricate designs that tell the story of her family lineage and her hopes for the future. Each line painted with cacao-based pigments that will make her skin glow with an otherworldly radiance in the torchlight of the wedding ceremony. The psychological effects of cacao beauty treatments were as important as their physical benefits. The Aztecs understood that confidence and inner beauty were essential components of external attractiveness, and their elaborate cacao rituals were designed to transform not just appearance, but consciousness itself. Picture Itzel after her day-long beauty transformation, not just looking different, but feeling like a completely different person, empowered by the knowledge that she has undergone the same sacred rituals performed by goddesses and queens throughout Aztec history. The trade networks that supplied cacao for beauty treatments extended throughout Mesoamerica, with different regions specializing in particular types of cacao prized for specific beauty purposes. The finest cacao came from the cloud forests of Soconusco, where the combination of altitude, humidity, and volcanic soil created beans with particularly powerful beauty-enhancing properties. Picture merchants traveling for weeks through dangerous territory, carrying precious loads of beauty cacao to the markets of Tenochtitlan, where wealthy nobles would pay fortunes for the finest quality ingredients. The Spanish conquest of Mexico in the 16th century brought an abrupt end to these elaborate cacao beauty rituals, as Christian missionaries considered them pagan practices associated with devil worship. But the knowledge didn't disappear entirely, and some indigenous communities continued to practice modified versions of cacao beauty treatments in secret, preserving ancient wisdom about the cosmetic properties of this sacred plant. Modern science has actually validated many of the Aztec beliefs about cacao's beauty benefits. We now know that cacao is rich in antioxidants, can improve skin circulation, and contains compounds that can enhance mood and create feelings of well-being. The Aztecs' intuitive understanding of cacao's properties was remarkably accurate, even though they explained its effects in terms of gods and spiritual forces rather than chemistry and biology. As we slowly emerge from the sacred chambers where Itzel completed her transformation, let the sound of temple drums fade into a gentle whisper. The intoxicating aroma of cacao and vanilla becomes just a memory, and the sight of pyramid temples silhouetted against the Mexican sky dissolves into peaceful darkness as we prepared to close our journey through the beautiful and shocking world of ancient beauty secrets. The flickering light of copal incense grows dimmer and dimmer, and the chanted prayers in ancient Nahuatl become as soft as a mother's lullaby, carrying you gently toward the threshold of sleep, where dreams of goddess transformations and sacred beauty rituals await your peaceful slumber. And so, dear friends, we come to the end of our gentle journey through 5 shocking beauty secrets from ancient times.
We've traveled from the lead-lined eyes of Egyptian pharaohs to the urine baths of Roman nobility, from the golden honey treatments of ancient Greece to the bloodletting chambers of medieval Europe, from the lotus feet of Chinese empresses to the sacred cacao rituals of Aztec goddesses. Each of these practices, shocking as they may seem to our modern sensibilities, reveals something profound about the universal human desire for beauty, transformation, and connection to something greater than ourselves. Whether they sought the protection of the gods through Kohl, the perfect balance of humors through bloodletting, or the divine essence of cacao through sacred rituals, our ancestors understood that true beauty involves much more than surface appearance. As you drift off to sleep tonight, perhaps you'll dream of ancient workshops filled with the aroma of grinding minerals, or elegant bathhouses where Romans debated the merits of different beauty treatments, or moonlit courtyards where Chinese women practiced their graceful lotus walk. Maybe you'll find yourself in a Greek garden covered in golden honey while listening to lyre music, or in an Aztec temple chamber transforming into a goddess through the sacred properties of cacao. May these glimpses into the past remind you that the pursuit of beauty has always been a deeply human endeavor, connecting us across centuries and cultures in our shared desire to feel confident, attractive, and worthy of love. And may you rest peacefully, knowing that while the methods have changed dramatically, the fundamental human experiences of self-care, transformation, and the pursuit of beauty remain as relevant today as they were thousands of years ago. If this journey through the surprising beauty practices of ancient times helped you relax and drift toward peaceful dreams, let me know in the comments below where you're listening from and what time it is in your part of the world. I love knowing that we're all connected in these quiet moments, sharing stories and finding comfort in the fascinating tapestry of human history. Sweet dreams, dear friends, and may your sleep be filled with visions of ancient beauty and timeless grace. Until we meet again for another gentle journey through the corridors of the past, rest well and sleep peacefully.